What's up, everybody? Welcome Squad Squad, and welcome to Slav Guns on Tour. I'm here at the brand new CompExpo, and I am here at probably one of the more fun booths. So anyone who knows me, even though we love precision long-range shooting and ELR type shooting, rimfire is pretty cool too, especially been seeing it in some of my 1022 videos. I'm here with Greg from Vudoo Gunworks, and they have some really nice stuff. So what I wanted to do is talk to the experts about the massive growth we're seeing in NRL 22 extended precision rimfire shooting, and to talk about some of the products that you guys can grab. So Greg, thank you for having me.
Absolutely, it's a pleasure to be here, and thank you for coming to say hi. So we'll kind of talk about the rifle we have here on the table. This is our V22 360 action. So this is a new addition to our line with a 3-lug 60-degree throw bolt. This is in addition to, not replacement of, our 2-lug. We still actively produce a 2-lug. But we wanted to listen to our customers' demand and respond to the folks that shoot 3-lug centerfire guns that are used to that 60-degree feel. And we listened, we produced, and it's been a great seller for us. Not any better of a gun, it's just a different option.
Okay. So for those who are not familiar or don't have extensive experience with, well, bolt guns, let's leave it at that. What are there any practical differences between a 60 and the 90-degree Fro, or is it a lot of personal choice?
It's really personal choice. So the difference here is this is a 60-degree lift. So from fully in battery up to ready to move the bolt to the rear, it's a 60-degree lift versus a 90-degree lift. So it is less motion. So in theory, yeah, you could be a little quicker. However, with that less motion, you're also cocking that firing pin spring with less motion, so it's a slightly heavier. Realistically, you wouldn't feel it unless you had two Vudoos side by side and were trying them, next to each other. But it is there.
So, you brought up a great point that, typically with a shorter bolt throw, one of the complaints is that you can't easily lift the bolt.
Yeah.
Now, that obviously applies to centerfire. Does that same concept apply to rimfire, or not as much?
Rimfires are running much lighter springs, so it's usually, we run typically an 18 or a 22-pound spring in these, which is fairly light compared to a centerfire. So, while yes, it is a little bit heavier going to a 60-degree, it's still a very easy bolt to run. I run mine with my fingertips as I shoot. So.
Now, looking at these rifles from a distance, the first thing you notice is it almost looks like a real I hate to use the word real, but let's say a centerfire action, because, well, it looks like basically a Remington 700 clone. Now, in the rimfire world, we have the Ruger precision rimfires, we have the CZs, we have some TKs. What are the advantages or disadvantages to going your route, which is a 700 type footprint, versus, let's say, for example, somebody started with a 1022 or a different rimfire action, which is typically going to be much smaller?
Correct. Well, you hit the nail right on the head. 700 type footprint, that's the key here. So this is a 700 true to scale footprint. The stock is inletted for Remington 700, so that opens you up to all of your chassis options. So like Masterpiece Arms, that's our biggest seller. Foundation, this is a Foundation Exodus. My Macmillan's on the tripod behind me, and that's it's a regular 700 Macmillan stock. That also opens us up to triggers. So we use standard Remington 700 triggers. Timney, Trigger Tech, Huber, Bix & Andy, they all fit right in there. So what that gives you is a couple things. One, you can build a rimfire to completely model or mirror your centerfire. You could buy a barreled action from us and actually just drop the whole thing right into your stock or chassis for your centerfire. And then there's a couple inherent accuracy benefits as well. We have a bigger, more robust action versus some of the older 22s that were, a smaller tube diameter, if you will. That gives us more stability in the chassis of the stock, and it gives us the ability to run our patented AICS magazine, or AICS pattern, I should say, not AICS. So this magazine will fit right into, again, all the stocks and chassis that we just talked about, just to match your centerfire. And again, because of the size of it, it's a little more stable in there. So
it's also, I'm sure, going to be a lot easier to reload one of those than a small, tiny magazine that you're trying to fumbling in place.
Correct. Yeah. So if you have belt holsters and things like that when you're on a stage in a PRS or an NRL 22 match, it's much more force of habit to get in there and reload. And and not fumble around versus a small magazine that's much more delicate. These are pretty robust.
And I guess a good way of thinking about it, because if you already come from a world and you have a centerfire gun that is built on a 700 footprint, I mean, buying one of these guns may actually end up being cheaper than getting a dedicated 22 platform, but because then it's an all-new platform, so then you got to get a new chassis or a new stock, and basically another new trigger and everything else along those lines.
Yeah, exactly. So, like we said, you could buy a barreled action from us and drop it in your existing chassis. Of course, most people are not going to change a trigger back and forth between their center fire, rimfire, because that's a little more cumbersome with a hammer and a punch. But yeah, they're expensive. We do. The sound of freedom in the background.
Let's try it again. Yeah, very expensive.
Yeah, perfect segue into that. So, anyways, now that I totally lost my train of thought, but they are expensive to produce. We put a lot of time and effort and expensive machining into these. However, we have a very precise, extremely accurate platform.
Okay.
I had a young lady on here up on steel at 468 yards yesterday. With the rifle here in the background. So the rifles can produce, and there's definitely some secret sauce in there that we could talk about too. But they are worth every penny. But the cool thing about it is, you're not spending time. You're not spending time reloading. Your ammo is much cheaper. I mean, you can go out for $130 and shoot 500 rounds of Lapua Center X, and that's the equivalent to what, 100 rounds of 6.5 Creedmoor if you're reloading it.
Yeah, I'd say it's funny. So I mean, at CompExpo, there are a number of events going on, and for somebody who doesn't hand load, I mean, let's say for example, 200 rounds of 6.5 Creedmoor or another caliber. I mean, in good times, that's about $2 a round for, let's say, Hornady match. I mean, right now, people are going to be paying $400-500. I mean, that could be easily over $1,000 of ammo that's being spent just in one match. Versus with rimfire, you can actually save some money.
Correct, absolutely. I found when I first bought my Vudoo, I was a Vudoo customer before an employee, and I had so much fun because it was a gun that always went with me out to the desert, and I could go out and shoot 300 or 400 rounds in a day and not really even think twice about it. But the amount of quality training, if you will, that it gave me, behind the rifle, on the trigger, reading wind, etc., was so valuable, and it even transferred very well into my center fire shooting as well.
Well, because correct me if I'm wrong. Shooting a rimfire at 300 yards is almost going to build the same skills as shooting a center fire at 1,000.
Yeah, correct. So if we take distance to distance, 22 versus 6.5 Creedmoor, at 200 yards with one of these, it's about the equivalent to shooting a 6.5 at 800 yards. Yeah. So it's about 1-to-4 ratio, if you will. So again, the thing I found the most is reading the wind. Yeah. Looking out there and watching a mirage and looking for little changes. A 1-2 mile an hour change in wind at if you're shooting, let's say, a Coke can at 200 yards, that's going to move you off the target with one of these. So really, it's a big, huge training aid to get a lot of time, a lot of exposure, if you will, a lot of feedback.
Now, speaking of ammo, can you talk about what kind of ammo these guns are supposed to be run with? What can they run? What should they be run with? And how much of an impact is it going to have? Because, from even with standard guns, one of the biggest things you notice is it's like if you go to Walmart and buy the cheapest bulk box ammo, it's not going to shoot well. If you buy something a little bit nicer, it might shoot a little bit better. But what about ammo with these purpose-built precision type guns?
Yeah, absolutely. So these are the F1 race car, if you will, of the 22 precision world. So we do use a match grade chamber. We actually call it the Ravaged Chamber. It's our own proprietary design. It's exclusive to us. It is designed around Lapua Center X ammo. So what that means is you can shoot any of the Lapua family, so Exact, Midas Plus, Center X, all the really good stuff. Any of the SK line, SK long range match, SK rifle match, SK standard plus, they're all the same dimensions, and they function very, very well. The cheaper stuff, like you said, the bulk stuff, you buy it at Walmart, 500 round brick for $25.
Yep.
Heck, I haven't even bought that ammo in so long. I don't even know if it still goes for that, but
it's back to that price, I think.
Yeah. The $20, $30 brick of ammo, that stuff is not really going to cycle in this. We're too tight of a chamber for that. But even if it would, we're not going to get the type of performance we're looking for out of this. So we do need a good match grade ammo. But like I said, that combined with our proprietary chamber, some of our machining techniques in here, the design of our bolt and everything, this is what causes this rifle to be one of the most accurate 22 rifles in the world.
But even ammo-wise, even though you want better 22 better rimfire ammo. I mean, you don't need to spend a lot of money because I mean, the ammo we're shooting today is the SK Standard Plus, which is not that much more expensive than, I guess, COVID bulk box pricing, because I think it's like $80 a brick or so.
Yeah, I've seen it for a brick, 65 to about $80 versus Center X. I think right now, Capstone's selling it for somewhere around 130 for a brick. Don't quote me on that, but and of course that's subject to change. So again, not totally breaking the bank, but it is slightly higher end over the other stuff, and it performs really well. Where we really see the difference on that is as we get further out.
Yeah. So a lot of this ammo, pretty much most of it is going to be subsonic to start with.
Correct. Yeah, we're all shooting. It's match grade, so it's a standard velocity, which is subsonic. It's usually on a 70-degree day, you're pushing somewhere around 1173, 1175, depending what barrel length you're using too. So one thing you could talk about too, I guess, is to get the utmost accuracy would be like some of the services that Lapua and both Ely offer, which is ammo testing or lot testing. So with that, once you get your Vudoo, or let's say one of our competitors' rifles, shoot about 1,000 rounds or so through it. You get your barrel fouled up with some good fouling, so the lead and bullet lubricant. And then you can send your barreled action off to those guys to actually lot test. So since with a center fire, you get to load and develop your load for your rifle, with rimfire, we don't have that opportunity. So we can actually go through and test different lots to figure out what it likes the best. Lapua, I've been to that facility. It's great, wonderful guys to deal with. And they shoot it over a set of sensors at both 50 and 100 meters simultaneously. So it's pretty cool. We'll shoot a 10-round group with one lot of ammo, and you'll get simultaneous feedback for impacts at both those ranges. And you can go through and compare lot to lot, and they'll give you the opportunity to buy a whole bunch of it at the end. So it's really, it makes a difference. It really does. And it's really, tailor-making that ammo, if you will, to your specific rifle.
So that was definitely fun. The most important question, I guess, is where can people find more information about the guns? And what's the, roughly, I guess, for people who want to get an idea of what the price points and the availability?
Absolutely. So you can find us on our website. It's VudooGunworks.com. So just spelled like on my jersey here, VUDOO, Gunworks.com. You can call us at the shop. We're busy, so we may not be able to get on the phone all the times, but shop number is area code 435-359-2890. Any one of us will be able to answer most of your questions, get you helped out with. The lead time right now for our rifles is about 5 months. We are working on decreasing that. Of course, COVID and a lot of raw material challenges, not with just with us, but our vendors as well, have definitely slowed us up. But about 5 months, and we are working at decreasing that pretty quick. We get started with a 20% deposit, and that'll get you in the queue for a build. Price-wise, barreled actions, complete barreled actions, that is barrel, receiver, one magazine. You would need a trigger, stock, and or chassis. And if your stock does not come with it, you'll need a bottom metal of some sort that's AICS compatible.
Yeah, so just basically just standard AICS bottom metal, and if you're usually using a chassis, it's already going to be typically for it.
Correct, yeah. So a standard barreled action for us starts at $18.70. Complete rifles start at $23.45 for more of our hunter models. Things like our Ravaged and the Ridgeback stock starts at $26.45. And we go, sky's the limit. We've got some pretty expensive options out there that have definitely...
So are your rifles, do you have standard SKUs that people can order, or is pretty much everything bespoke and tailored to what the customer wants?
It's kind of in between. So we have standard models. We have a menu, if you will. So we're not a full custom shop. So we can't come in and say, hey, do this and make some lightning cuts and a whole bunch of things that have never been done before. But we have, barrel lengths, contours, stocks, colors, a menu of options that we can do. And that is all built to your specific order.
Very cool. So, Greg, thank you for walking me through your offerings. Thank you for letting me shoot these guns. And as always, thank you guys for joining. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you have questions for myself or for Vudoo Gunworks, make sure to leave them as a comment down below. And as always, thank you for watching. Keep on squatting, and we'll see you in the next video.